In this episode of Chateau Capers, there will be... Oh, bugger it. This time there is lightning and destruction. We start work on the swimming pool, sort of. There's a big hole in the chateau, and we make great progress on the back kitchen. So let's get to it. We've been planning to build a swimming pool here in front of the orangery, and before the digger comes to make a big mess, we needed to get the grass under control. We finally named our tractor, by the way. Thank you for your suggestions. In the end, we chose Brigitte. Thank you, Vintage Lady, for the suggestion. A very close second was the Duchess, as in Sarah Ferguson, Massey Ferguson. But because we're in France, we went native. We're just measuring up where the swimming pool is going to go, and we've decided it's moving a little bit further away from the orangery than where I first pegged it out. Oh, and it's so hot today. Oh. Now marked out, the swimming pool will stretch from near the olive tree across to the hot tub. I couldn't put a fourth stake in as it goes in the middle of the cobble path, but you get the idea.
It's full steam ahead in the back kitchen, which will be the kitchen for our self-catering guests. So it's essential to get this room finished before we can even think about taking bookings. I've chosen a slightly different shade for this wall-mounted cupboard from the other kitchen units to create a little contrast in the room. The kitchen island has a nice worktop, but the edges were rather sharp, so Rory routed them to make them nice and rounded and to match the other worktops. Once routed, Rory smoothed the edges further with a high grit sandpaper on the orbital sander. After a few coats of worktop varnish, this island will be ready for breakfast. With much of the spray painting done, it was time to tidy up a bit. Having tried ever so hard to protect the floor, we were dismayed to find that we'd spray painted the tiles twice. But never mind, a bit of scrubbing should be all that's needed. The saga of the expanding cabinets continues, so we are having to sand some of the drawers down so that they fit properly and can be shut. We didn't expect to have to do quite so much work on these cabinets. The wood must have been rather fresh. However, it's still lovely to see it all coming together. A local artisan has a small airfield on his land, and we're occasionally treated to a flyby from a biplane. Some days it almost feels like we've been transported back in time.
As Jane just said, why did we buy an intelligent pony? Dizzy's worked out that his fence, the electricity isn't onto it yet because I've got a bit of work to do in it. And so he knows that the grass is greener on the other side. And so he's pushing his way through. This is the second time today. He determined to be a big pot-bellied horse. I think so. Dizzy's escapades brought the electric fence forward in my list of jobs. I just needed to extend the wire over his stable and down to meet the fence on the other side. I don't think you could live in a chateau if you weren't happy with cobwebs and mud. I've got muddy hands and I'm up a ladder. Okay, so now we just tie it to there, I guess, but the problem is we need another one.
We can steal one of the ones from the fence that's done very little service.
Right.
So I'll steal one. Yep.
So it just needs to tie into there and we're done.
Yeah.
Here's my electric fence helping spaniel. Hello, Bunty.
It was a month ago now, in mid-May, when the bare root roses that I'd planted out last autumn began to bloom.
So this is a success story. I planted this David Austin climbing rose, the generous gardener, in about November time as a bare root. It went into my homemade compost, which had well rotted manure from about 6, 7, 8 months age. Yeah. And it's got loads of flowers. It's really healthy. I'm absolutely delighted. So this is another one. If anything, this one's even more vigorous. I think it's King Arthur from memory. It's not a David Austin. Never grown this one before. The leaves are big, there's a tiny bit of slug damage, but really, really healthy. Absolutely bursting with buds. Again, this went into homemade compost, so hooray for that. The roses that I put into the formal garden have not fared as well. They went into a mixture of clay and compost. I didn't really enjoy that through the winter. And then they were overshadowed by grass. I didn't get all the turf out. So they haven't done as well, but I think the compost is good. I just wish I'd had more of it.
Before plastering, it's all about the prep work. A simple mix of PVA and water helps the wall grip the plaster and stops it from drying out too fast. It's a small step, but one that makes all the difference. Just a smooth coat evenly brushed on and we're ready for the next stage. My plan is to patch the wall ready for tiling. It doesn't have to be a perfectly smooth job, which is good considering my skill level. Nothing says true craftsmanship quite like red socks and sandals. I layered up 2 coats of plaster before smoothing it out a little. Any visible imperfections after tiling can be sanded before painting. Here in the Gers, we certainly get our fair share of thunderstorms, and the latest one had just arrived. The next morning we went out to feed the horses and were greeted by this. Well, we had a little storm. Didn't last very long. Lots of thunder and lightning and a bit of wind, but I didn't think it was that much wind. However, we have yet another tree that's collapsed. And this one was a fruiting tree. I think it's been quite rotten inside for a long time. So I think before that other one, that's leaning heavily towards the greenhouse of the cottage. So this needs to come down as a matter of urgency in a controlled way that doesn't destroy the greenhouse or conservatory, whatever it is. Oof, you can see this one is rotten inside. Some animal has been using it as a food store or something. So that's rotten inside. That's gone. Well, I think this tree is done for, which is a shame. Well, you can't have a day without trouble, can you? The cottage might be at risk, but the real trouble, this tree is in the horses' field, and they'd waste no time devouring the small plums. The plums are actually quite tasty, but the stones can contain amygdalin, a compound that releases cyanide when crushed. Whilst the poisoning is unlikely, It will be far safer to remove everything before they're allowed back here to graze. Just one more unexpected job leaping up the ladder of importance. Welcome to Jane's Find of the Day with Jane.
Hello and welcome to this week's Find of the Day at Chateau de Pican. Today I'm talking about this picture. It is very similar to one that I found that's supposedly from 1700 with its pewter stand, pewter lid, braided handle and the ribbing around the body and some ribs and bands around the neck. So that's quite exciting. It would have probably originally been used for wine and it is in perfect condition. Underneath there is the mark of, I think, the person who painted it. They've left their signature underneath, but I don't know who that is, actually. I haven't been able to find one the same as that. But in terms of the other item that's from 1700, they described it as being earthenware, either from Nuremberg or Delft, so that's quite a broad margin. But yeah, could be from 1700.
I was adding hinges to a pantry cupboard door. In France, door hinges all seem to have round edges. They look nice, but it's tricky to cut the wood neatly to shape. I was determined to get this right. I'd measured twice and slept on it, but I probably shouldn't have had the gin and tonic the night before. I was starting to enjoy it. I took my time and made sure I wasn't too heavy-handed, and bit by bit I formed the perfect recess for the hinge, until I realised I'd cocked it up and carved out the wrong side. I made the corrections and carefully carved a recess on the other side, and then confidently hung the door upside down. And I thought things were going smoothly. Having got it wrong with the hinge, put the hinge on the wrong side, I then changed it, did the other one at the other end, changed it, put them up, only to discover that I was right the first time. Oh, which means I've got to redo two. I'm going to have to get more filler and, just making such a mess of this. I need filler anyway to fill the hole where the old handle used to be and the lock. But this is upside down on the wrong side. Oh, I'm so annoyed with myself. The moment that perhaps none of you have been waiting for.
Well, I don't think it is from 1700. The reasons are, I don't think this is quite as sophisticated as that other piece. It's delicate. I think it's a bit more simple in its design, especially the pattern of the glaze, the decoration. So I wonder whether this is a reproduction of an earlier piece designed to look very similar to that, but from maybe the 19th century. In terms of value, the other one, someone was asking 1,000 or more euros for it. But one that was maybe not as nice as this, but was also from the 18th century, someone was only asking 200 euros for it, and that one had sold. So I'm thinking maybe the 1,000 euros is a bit steep. And then we're looking at this and we're thinking, okay, well, where does that fit? So I think it's maybe a couple of €100, pounds or dollars. But it's rather lovely and I'm very happy to have it.
Undeterred by my door hanging upside downy cock-uppy business, I ploughed on with the alterations and repairs. This used to be one door until I cut it in half. Just covering up the evidence. A master craftsman doesn't just measure twice. No, he wears socks and sandals and calls it a personality. I want to get rid of this absolutely disgusting old extractor fan. Sadly, it's going to mean there's a massive hole in the wall. So we will put another extractor fan in. It's just, this is quite a big one. So either we put something in that's a similar size, which might not be the worst idea, because those little ones can be a bit pathetic actually, but first of all I've got to work out how to get the cover off. They look like screws there, but I don't know if they're just decoration. Well, there might be actual screws, but this might be a bit big. I'll look for a smaller one. Oh. So I probably didn't even need to undo the screws. I've just pulled it and the whole thing's coming out. The only thing holding it on is the wires. That is a big hole. Big hole. It's a bit yucky inside as well. With the extractor fan removed, it was time to fit the wall cabinet. The plan was to attach a straight piece of wood to the wall to act as a support while I fixed the cupboard in place. Jane has chosen an off-white colour for the walls and was painting the area around and behind the cupboard. Once done, we were ready to hang the cupboard. With Jane using her mighty muscles, I marked where I would fit the brackets. Steady that side. We noticed that the huge hole in the wall would be partly behind the cupboard. This meant I'd have to deal with it before the cupboard is fixed, and by extension, before I can tile the splashback. I tried bending it, but it wasn't budging. So I went and got my tin snips. This was kind of working, but I was creating some very sharp edges of metal. I tried from the outside and managed to cut it over halfway. I managed the rest from the inside, which allowed me to lever it away from its cement bond and slide out. We'll still have an extractor fan vent here, but it will be much smaller, so I'll partially brick it back up. There's a hole in my chateau, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's an owl in my chateau, dear Liza, an owl. For now though, we've fitted the cupboard because we want to see the kitchen looking almost complete, and also to keep it out of the way. As always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.